Alright, just after I finished doing that video, the compressor kicked in, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to explain something else. Right here, I can feel air coming out of that hole. That air is coming from this channel, like I was saying. It's being pulled in here, so when the door is closed, it's circulating the air through the deep freeze. If the fan that's running is just a computer fan, it's very small, it doesn't need a lot to move a little bit of air. There's also air coming up through these spaces here. I can feel a breeze coming up through there, and that's cooling the outside skin surface of the freezer. Because the way a freezer is constructed is the compressor has two different lines. One is for cooling, one is for cooling the compressor. So the cooling lines are on the inside surface of the freezer, and that's causing the freezer to get cold. Well, that heat that is being pulled from there has to go somewhere. So they put lines on the outside, on the opposite side of the insulation, so that the freezer can cool the compressor at the same time. So that's why you can't build something right up against the deep freeze. If it was completely closed, it would cause the freezer to overheat. The compressor would work way harder than it needs to. It'll burn out eventually. So you have to leave some space here and then try to get airflow through there. So I've put a fan inside the base, and you'll see that in some pictures.
Okay, this is just showing the panel and the frames around the Kegerator. The panels are made out of maple, with maple plywood. They're attached with screws, and you'll see more on that in some pictures. The screws are covered up with maple buttons to hide those screws. 3 panels, 2 sides. In the front, the back is open. All of the trim is solid maple, 3/4 inches thick. The top, again, has the maple trim with the drip pan made out of stainless steel. It comes off for cleaning. The weld can just be wiped out. It's solid. It's all flush with the tile. Tile's flush with that trim on the outside edge of the Kegerator. Tile isn't sealed or anything. Once this focuses, we can show the taps up above on the coffin box. The 5 taps are all stainless steel with 5-inch shanks going through that maple face. We've got the 5 lights above those taps. So the hangers that are on there displaying what's in each tap are just cheap photo frames from a dollar store. They were 99 cents for a pack of 2, and I thought they were a great solution for displaying what I wanted to put in there. So you can see that one says it's Pilsner. Firkin Brewery is the name of the brewery that I have. It's not a commercial brewery, it's just a name I gave my own brewery. But hang some chain on those photo frames and it works as a great solution. I replaced the back plates on those taps with chrome ones because they originally come with black. And then you can see the lights. There's 4 individual LEDs in each of the lights. They just give a little bit of bling to the taps. The top is all tiled as well, flush with the trim, with the maple trim on the outside edge. Makes a great place to put things. You can see a butt joint on that corner right there. Okay, so now we've got some pictures coming up here. This is the underside of the base, and you can see I've got red lines and yellow lines in there. The red lines indicate where I have blocks underneath the plywood to prevent air from going through. The yellow lines show the air movement coming from that fan. It's like a 70 cubic foot per minute fan blowing air through the ductwork, and that air is going to go around the edges of the outside of the freezer. Here's the base sitting on its wheels now, and you can see the yellow highlight that I have there to indicate where the airflow will go. There's the freezer. It's a little old and rusty looking, but it's on that base. I've got buttresses glued to the corners to hold the sides on eventually. Here you can see the air outlets from the ductwork in the base, and that continues on up the side when the side panels are put in place. Here's the lid sitting on against the unit. You can see where I have some white paint there. That's where the tray is going to go and where the coffin box will sit. Those areas are going to be exposed to air from the freezer, as well as the underside shown here. And the air is going to be moist and could cause problems with fungal growth, as well as inside the coffin box shown there. So all that's been prevented from moisture, or sealed from moisture, and it'll prevent fungal growth with that white paint. There's the top of the coffin box with the wires going for the LED lights, and there's a close-up here that shows how I've countersunk all of the LED lights right into the maple and the plywood trim that makes up the lid. And again, it's all painted. Here's a picture of how I set it up and protected all those the finished edges already when I'm prepping to do the tile work. Didn't want any of the edges to get scratched by that grout, so I protected them. And there's a shot of right after I finished with the tile work. Okay, back to some videos. We've got the back side of the kegerator now. This is the back of the coffin box, and you can see all of the electrical equipment that I have and how I've set it up. There is you can see at the top first the base that I have. You can see the plywood edge. I don't really care about what it looks like in the back. Nobody's going to see it anyways. I've got an electrical outlet that's controlled by the digital temperature controller, and another electrical box that isn't controlled, so that one has power all the time. That's where I plug in the lights above the taps, and I just unplug the wall wart there and hold it on with Velcro when I want it off. That wall wart controls the fan inside the coffin box. This plug controls the fan down in the base. The compressor is controlled by the thermostat as well, and it's hardwired. Here you can see the buttresses that I have that are glued to the freezer and where I screw in the panels, and there's foam in between those to prevent any air leaking out. You can see the fan down in the base that's creating all the air pressure, and the wheels, and you can also see the foam. Oh, well, that's a wheel, yes. I'll show you the foam that I have sealing the edges as well. Zoom in on it right there. You can see the foam there, and it's sealing the bottom and the corners so that the air coming from the fan can't leak out. And then if I ever have to remove the top, it's bolted right down to the lid, so I'll just detach the lid from the freezer itself, and then the whole unit can be moved as one piece. The back panel is screwed into the coffin box with these screws around the perimeter. I'm going to remove them, and we'll have a look on the inside of there. That'll be next. Okay, so this is the inside of the coffin box. You can see I've opened up that panel, and here you can see the insulation that's creating the space for the air to travel through, and this is where I've mounted the electrical box controlled by the digital controller and the accessory box for the lights. And then there's the harness for the lights, the LED lights up top above the taps, and this cable goes to the fan that's moving the air inside. I'm just going to remove this foam block. Now you can see on inside, you can see the shanks that attach to the taps in the front. This foam block here just pops out, and you can see now the channel for the airflow coming up from the lid through past the shanks to the computer fan that I have in here that's moving the air. It's just friction fitted in there. That's just the computer fan. And that fan goes back in place, and when the compressor kicks in, that fan turns on, pulls air out of the freezer across the taps or across the shanks and back into the freezer down that hole. So up through this hole with the beer lines, and then across the shanks.